chapter 10 and verse 38 through 42. Very familiar passage. It'll be on the screen. It says in verse 38, "Now as they went on their way, he entered a certain village where a woman named Martha welcomed him into her home. She had a sister named Mary who sat at the Lord's feet and at the Lord's feet and listened to what he was saying. But Martha was distracted by her many tasks, so she came to him and asked, 'Lord, do you not care that my sister has left me to do all the work by myself? Tell her then to help me.' But the Lord answered, 'Martha, Martha, you are worried and distracted by many things.'" Verse 42, "There is need of only one thing. Mary has chosen the better part, which will not be taken away from her." I've titled this message, "Worried and Distracted." Worried and distracted. Just recently, and I'm going to tell this, and I'll keep it brief because those closest to me are sick of hearing it, but I have to share it because I think it goes along with tonight's word. But just recently, I've been taking a trip down, I would say memory lane, but it's not because I've never been there before. But I'm going back and I'm watching old films that I've never seen before, but epic, legendary, Oscar-nominated films, particularly that Tom Hanks is in. So I started with Forrest Gump. Ivy showed me that. I had never seen that. So it was an excellent movie. I see a lot of judgment there. That's not nice. So anyways, Forrest Gump was incredible, and he definitely deserved the Oscar for that. And then after that, I watched Castaway. And right now, I'm on Saving Private Ryan. I watched the first 30 minutes before I came here. That was a bad idea. I had no idea. So if you've seen it before, wow. Bloody. Anyways, Castaway is the one that I want to specifically talk about tonight. I'm sure at some point I'll do a Forrest Gump message, and that'll be fun. I can't wait for that. But anyways, what this story is all about, and I'm sure that this is in the trailer, so I'll try not to spoil it for you if you're like, I really want to watch that someday. There is a man who works, and it's played by Tom Hanks, he works for FedEx. And he is the epitome of someone who is supercharged by the American dream, the pursuit of happiness, this busy way of life, the hustle, the grind, this time is money mindset. If you are unfamiliar with how the story goes, he is flying somewhere for business, and his plane crashes. And he crashes over the ocean, and he washes up on an unknown island all by himself, and he's stranded there. He is the castaway. And maybe I'm just talking to myself here. Maybe you're like, yeah, Levi, we know. We've seen it. But anyways, during his time there, the key point that stuck out to me, which I think is kind of it's an obvious point that, but I don't know why it was such a powerful point. But during his time there, he had this realization, basically, of how fragile and how brief life is. As you would imagine, if you were stranded somewhere all alone and you were just in the hustle and bustle, you were in the grind of the American dream, and then all of a sudden, all of that gets whisked away and taken from you, then yeah, you're going to start to think, wow, this life is kind of fickle. And yeah, I was kind of dumb, and I really regret the way that I was living because I thought things were important. Well, anyways, he realizes all these things that he had taken for granted, even the most basic of necessities, such as food, such as water, such as heat, fire, such as shelter. I mean, you should see this guy trying to make a fire. He was not a Boy Scout, let me tell you. But anyway, the point is that he found out he truly had no control over his life. And that's just what I'll say. I don't want to give any more than that away in case you're wanting to go watch it. But he really just finds out, man, I have no control over my life. And I know this really resonated with me, and I know it may sound like I'm sharing in a book club, but this movie made me think of our passage that we are reading from tonight that I just read in Luke chapter 10. This is a story that where Jesus is invited by Mary and Martha to be a guest in their home. The God of the universe literally goes in human form and he hangs out at Mary and Martha's house. And could you just imagine for a moment God in flesh hanging out in your living room? I mean, let's just go there for a moment. That's insane. I think of when I was younger and we just had guests coming over and they weren't God. They were just average human beings. Probably people we didn't even like. But mom made us like clean the entire house for the guests. Has anybody had this similar experience? Like, you got to clean for your guests that are coming. Well, Mom would make us clean the whole house, and I would be like, well, Mom, we will be outside with our guests. Like, why do we need to clean the inside? And she's like, well, they'll have to come in and use the bathroom. And I was like, well, in the house that we lived in, that I'm specifically talking about in my younger years, the bathroom, and typically this is the way it is in most houses, the bathroom's at the front of the house. I'm like, Mom, my room is in the back of the house. There's no need for me to clean my room if they're just going to come in to use the bathroom. Why do I need to clean my room? And it was just this whole idea, and she's just like, because you do, because we have guests coming, and it really doesn't matter. And like, she gets just that angry. I'm just kidding. But she's like, we have guests coming, and it's what you do. And Martha seems to have this very same attitude. But I guess because he is God, in our story, I guess because he's God, she just like wants to keep cleaning even while he's there. Because like, you know, for God, it's like it can never be clean enough. You know, like I'm just going to, even when he's here, we're not going to stop cleaning because this is embarrassing. Like we just got to keep cleaning this thing. I could only imagine if Jesus was like, hey, I'm going to come hang at your house. I'm going to go buy a new couch. I'm going to buy a new TV. Like, you're not worthy, or I'm not worthy to have you sit on this dusty couch. I'm going to go get you a new clean couch. But that's the attitude that Martha seems to have. Like, I'm going to continue to clean even while God in flesh is in my living room. And Mary, we see, has more of this attitude of, like me, in my situation, like they're not going to be in the back of the house. She's like, hey, Martha, we're not in the kitchen, so like we're in the living room, like just come sit down, stop cleaning, like just hang with us. But much has been made of this passage that I'm reading from tonight. I have even preached multiple times out of this passage. And many times pastors would be like, are you more like Mary or are you more like Martha? And it's kind of like, are you like Martha? Are you caught up? Are you preoccupied? Are you too busy? Are you just, you know, distracted by all of life? And, you know, and then they get to this point where it's like, if you're like Martha, then you should be more like Mary. And that's kind of the consensus of the way that this passage has been preached. But I think that we have missed the point of this story entirely. And I want to look at verses 40 through 42 once again. And they say this, but Martha was distracted by her many tasks. So she came to him and asked, Lord, do you not care that my sister has left me to do all the work by myself? Tell her then to help me. Like, they're in like a family dispute, and she gets the guest involved. She gets Jesus involved in this family dispute. But the Lord answered her, Martha, Martha, you are worried and distracted by many things. There is need of only one thing. Mary has chosen the better part, which will not be taken away from her. Here's my question tonight. Why is it that we automatically assume that Martha is in the wrong here? Because I just told you, it said typically the consensus is, are you Mary, are you Martha? If you're like Martha, then Jesus seems to be condemning Martha, so you need to be more like Mary. Because you're too caught up, you're too busy, you're too worried, you're too distracted. But why is it that we automatically assume that? Is it because Jesus specifically speaks to her and says these things? But think about it. I just want you to think about this for a moment, because this is what hit me when I was studying this. Is she not doing the very thing that Jesus is all about? Like that the ministry of Jesus is all about. Serving others and providing hospitality. I mean, literally in Luke chapter 22, the disciples get into this argument about who is the greatest among them. And Jesus tells them, hey, it's the one who serves. And then he says this. Let me read this verse to you. Luke chapter, I don't think it's going to be on the screen, but it says this. Luke chapter 22, verse 27, it says, this is Jesus speaking to them right after he says, hey, the greatest among you is actually going to be the one who serves. He says, for who is greater, one who reclines at the table or one who serves? Is it not the one who reclines at the table? But he says this, but I am among you as the one who serves. So it's a paradox. He flips it on its head. But my question is, in all the preaching that's been done on this passage, Mary's in the right, Martha's in the wrong. That seems to be the consensus. Well, my question to that verse is, who is the one reclining in our story? Isn't it Mary? And then who's the one serving in our story? Isn't it Martha? And doesn't Jesus... Let me take it a step further. I've never realized this. But preceding these verses, immediately before we get into the story of Mary and Martha, immediately, so like literally verse 37... this is what's going on. It's the story of the Good Samaritan. If you're familiar with this, a lawyer comes up and he asks Jesus, he's like, hey, what must I do to inherit eternal life? And basically, I'll just paraphrase the story. He says, love God and love your neighbor as yourself. And then the man's like, just to try to test him, he's like, well, who is my neighbor? And then Jesus tells this parable about this man who's beaten up by robbers and he's left half dead. And it should be noted, this man was a Jew. And then Jesus says, now you tell me who's the neighbor. He tells this story and he says, now a priest came and he saw this man half dead and he passed him by. A man of God, a man of clergy that you would think would help. And then a Levite comes, another person who you would think would help out, and he passes him by. But then it says, but a Samaritan came and he served him by taking care of him. And then Jesus ends with saying, now who proved to be a true neighbor? And then he ends in verse 37, he says, now you go and do the same. And then it's such a dramatic shift. And we've used Mary and Martha's story to say that Martha's all in the wrong, but it's such a dramatic shift because Jesus literally says, go and do the same. Go serve others in this way. The greatest among you will be the one who serves. And then literally, verse 38 through 42, Jesus is saying, hey, you're worried and distracted. And we took that to mean Martha is in the wrong and Mary's in the right. But I would like to suggest that he is not condemning Martha at all. Look at what he actually says to Martha in verse 41 once again. But the Lord answered her, Martha, Martha, you are worried and distracted by many things. Worried and distracted. The title of our message, Worried and Distracted. Could you just imagine for a moment being told face to face by God that you're worried and distracted? Wouldn't that be just like, I don't even know what I would do in that moment. Like hey, Levi, like you're worried and distracted. I'd be like, I'd kind of slouch and be like, well, what do I do now? Like I'd just be quiet and I don't know what to do next because you just told me I'm worried and distracted. And I just thought that was interesting. But the word distracted here literally translates, it has a connotation of being pulled or being dragged in different directions. And here's what I want to ask you tonight. Are you worried? Are you distracted? And I'm going to get more into this, but are you worried? Are you distracted? Are you like Martha, just for a moment, just take inventory of your life. Are you like Martha in all your good intentions? You're just trying to do, here's the thing that you need to know about this story. When they come into the house, Martha actually does what is expected of her. The cultural norm for women of the day was to go and keep the house clean. Like, hey, go get to work. She's actually doing what is culturally right, what's culturally expected, and what is just the right thing to do when you are the host and you have a guest. Furthermore, in this day and age, Mary is breaking all those barriers. Mary is not supposed to be doing what she's doing. Jesus says that she's doing what's right, but technically by the cultural norm, she's not. Because it was only reserved for men to sit and listen to a rabbi teach. And here Mary's doing this. And are you like Martha in all your good intentions? Are you just trying to do what is expected of you? Are you just trying to, in being worried and distracted, are you just trying to provide for your family? Are you just trying to do what is necessary to stay healthy? Are you just trying to have a successful business? Be ahead of the curve with the latest and the greatest idea? Are you just trying to balance your time between all your responsibilities, all of your family, and all of your faith? See, we can be honest tonight because this is us, this is our family. If I can be honest with you tonight, I'm worried and distracted. Because everything I just described, all my best intentions, I'm trying to run a business. I'm trying to lead a church. I'm trying to do this. I'm trying to do that. And in all my best intentions, I find myself in Martha's shoes. I'm worried and distracted. And maybe you find yourself there with whatever it is, with whatever you're going through. Maybe it's a health issue. Maybe it's this. Maybe it's that. Maybe it's your job. Maybe it's your finances, and you're worried and distracted about that. But all the while, you have this feeling like, if I let up, or if I fail, or I don't meet the standard, or I don't live up to the expectation. Because remember, it's expected of her in the culture to do what she's doing. Don't you have expectations that are expected of you in your life and the roles that you perform? Maybe it be at your job, maybe it be in your marriage. You have expectations that you must live up to, a standard that you must meet. Do you feel the pressure? Do you feel the weight of those things? And do you have this feeling of like, if I let up, if I fail, if I don't meet the standard or live up to the expectation, everything will crumble? Like, I think if we're honest with ourselves, many of us are there. I think many of us live at that place. Like, a lot hedges on me, a lot of weight, a lot of pressure. A lot of people depend on me. A lot of things depend on me. And maybe you're at this place, you're like, okay, yeah, Levi, you got me. I am pulled in all different directions. And you think of like Solomon, and he said everything is meaningless, and the truth is, you're like, I probably don't have as much control over my life as I think I do. You're right, Levi. Okay, you got me. But so what am I supposed to do? What's wrong with, maybe I like to hustle. Maybe I like to grind. Maybe I do have goals. Maybe I want success and money. And I want to enjoy those things in my life. And maybe I spend more time than I should thinking about trivial things in life. And maybe I worry about my health and my family a little bit more than I should. Maybe I'm worried. Maybe I'm distracted. But what are you suggesting? What are you suggesting from this passage, Levi? That I just sit around, that I just do nothing, and I have no drive and no goals whatsoever, and I just care about nothing. What are you trying to say? What are you trying to get? And a lot of people will confuse this passage with this exact thinking. That because Jesus commends Mary, that he's condemning Martha, therefore you're supposed to just do what Mary's doing, not what Martha's doing, and you should have no goals, no drive, no accomplishments that you want to reach, and that you should just sit around and do nothing. But Jesus never said that. He said, may I repeat it again? He says, Martha, you're worried and distracted. That's all he said. He said, you're worried and distracted. Then notice what he says last. He says, there is need of only one thing. Mary has chosen the better part, which will not be taken away from her. Wait. So the focus isn't on Mary or Martha. Like, is anybody catching that? It's not about what I do or what I don't do. It's about who I'm doing it with. 1 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 31, and it says this, so whether you eat or drink or whatever you do, do all to the glory of God. Oh, I think this is so powerful. I think we've been missing this passage on so many times. Well, I need to be more like Mary, not like Martha. I need to put down my busyness and just sit at the feet of Jesus. And you've heard those messages, and you're like, I'm at the feet of Jesus. And can I do anything else? Because this is like, I can't just always read a devotion and always pray 24/7 and like never do anything with my life. Like, I go to church, but I can't live at the church. Like, and everybody's interpreted it to mean do nothing and sit still at the feet of Jesus, and the world will continue to spin. But it's not about that. He says you're worried and distracted. It's not about what you do, your busyness, or it's not about what you don't do, Mary sitting at my feet. Notice the difference here. It's about you're over there alone. She's right here with me. And then 1 Corinthians says, whatever, it's telling us, he's straight up here. He's saying, whether you eat, whether you drink, anything you can think of, whatever it is that you're going to do it all to the glory of God. Now, here's what's cool. I want you to catch this. Do you know what the glory of God is? The glory of God, it literally means God's presence. So it means God's presence, his goodness. So literally, this verse is telling us, and our passage is telling us, hey, whatever you do it with God. It's not about what you do, what you don't do. Hey, whatever you do, whether it is what you do or what you don't do, just do it with me. Do it with God. That's what he's beckoning here. Do it to the glory of God. Do it with the presence of God. And think about it. When you're doing what you're doing and you do it with God, you will worry less. You will be distracted less. You will be pulled away in different directions less. You know why? Because, now I'm worried about my finances. I'm worried about my health. I'm worried about this situation. I'm worried about this. I'm praying about this. And now all of a sudden, instead of being over there in the kitchen by yourself, worrying to death like Martha is, now all of a sudden, whatever it is you're doing, Jesus is right here with me. It literally is one of his names, Emmanuel, God with us. He's with me. This isn't just my problem now. It's his problem too. He cares too. This is his burden that he's bearing with me. I'm not alone in this. I don't have to worry as much because I felt the weight of the world crushing down on me. Like if I fail to do this, then everything will crumble. But now I realize, now all of a sudden it makes sense. God is with me. And now, whatever it is you're going through that you're worried about are all the things that you're pulled away by. Maybe it is you want a successful business. Maybe it is this and that, and you feel like you got to stay ahead of the curve. Now, all of a sudden, your problem is his problem too because he's with you. But now, all of a sudden, your desires become his desires too because he's with you. And you're not in it alone. And I'm closing now, but I have an interesting thought for you. Just think about this for a moment. How this story could have played out, because all we get is 38 through 42. We don't know what happens next. But just think about this for a moment. I think most people conclude that after Jesus says these words to Martha, because he says, hey, you're worried and distracted. And then he says, hey, there's only one thing that is necessary. And there's only one thing. It's not about what you do. It's not about what she does. It's me. I'm the one thing. And she gets that because she's here with me. But just think about this for a moment. After Jesus says these words to her and he says it will not be taken away from her, how do you think this played out? I think most people conclude that after Jesus says these words to Martha, she reluctantly crosses her arms and comes and sits down at Jesus' feet. She's frustrated. Jesus has just said you're worried and distracted. Who wants to be told? You know how many times I've been told, like, you're stressed out when I am stressed out? It only makes me more stressed out and angry. And who really wants to be told that? I could only imagine I'm sure most people think, like, she just reluctantly crossed her arms, like, crisscross applesauce in front of Jesus, Go ahead, teach us now. Worried and distracted. I'm not listening to anything he has to say. And it's so interesting because that's the way that we would react. But what if she never got the chance to react like that? What if, as Jesus finishes saying, it will not be taken away from her, and he's sitting there and he's teaching Mary, what if after he says that, he stands up and he comes into the kitchen and he starts helping Martha with the chores? Doesn't that seem more like our God? Doesn't that add up more to his character? We don't know. I mean, I'm just speculating. Don't tell people I told you this is what happened. I'm just saying, what if? But isn't it an interesting thought that Jesus, it won't be taken away from her? And watch, Jesus, he could have stood up and he walks in and he begins to help her in her busyness, because the one thing is, he just wants to be with you. And watch this. Here's what's cool. Mary already had it figured out and it won't be taken away from her. So Mary didn't really care what they were doing. So all of a sudden when Jesus stands up and he walks across the room into the kitchen, Mary's like, I'm with him. And follows right behind Jesus. And then all of a sudden, all three of them are in there doing the chores together. It's all speculation. But you see, it's because Jesus is not saying, hey, Martha, be more like Mary. Be more like your sister. He's saying, hey, Martha, come be with me. And God just hit me with this revelation like yesterday, because I was going to preach this in a different way. But it hit me like a ton of bricks, because I was so focused on Mary versus Martha. And the whole story isn't about Mary or Martha. It's about Jesus. There's nothing wrong with you out there hustling and grinding and wanting to have success, and you have desires and you want to get the job and you want to level up and you want to have the house and you want to have the car. There's nothing wrong with you wanting to provide for your family. There's nothing wrong for you being worried about your family and your friends and their health. There's nothing wrong with any of these things. But I think what Jesus is trying to tell all of us is just include me. You're worried and distracted, but when you enter me into the situation, things like that are going to fade away. Because all of a sudden, now you have a team around you. Because Martha walks up to Jesus and says, hey, shouldn't she be helping me? Get her up, tell her. And Jesus could have worked it out where he's like, you know what? Instead of just getting her to help you, we're all going to be in there and we'll get it done together. Matthew 11, verse 28, are you tired? This is Jesus speaking. Are you tired? Are you worn out? Are you burned out? Man, I got to be honest with you. If we're just honest with ourselves, we just take a step back, because it can seem like I'm not really tired, I'm not really burned out, I'm not really worn out. But really take observation over your life. Are you tired? Are you worn out? Are you burnt out from all these expectations this world has placed on you? And all these desires you have, and the American dream, and time is money, and the hustle and grind of life. And you're so burnt out on having to pray over these situations that you feel like you have no control over, and you're asking God, why? Why me? Why my family? Why this situation? Are you tired? Are you worn out? Are you burned out? Jesus says, come to me. Come to me. The point's not what you're doing or what you're not doing. The point is, Emmanuel, God with us, come to me. Get away with me. You'll recover your life. That's what he says. And then all of a sudden, I'm not worried and distracted as much because I'm recovering my life, because now Jesus is with me. I want to give you an example of what I think this is like, and I promise I'm done. This is my last little story. It's kind of comedic story. The other night, and Ivy's going to have a good little laugh. Y'all enjoy her giggle here. But the other night, I woke up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom. Well, you're trying to hold it in right now. So I sleep on I sleep on the right side of the bed. So not here, on the right side. My right side, you'd be your left side. Anyways, I sleep on the right side of the bed, and the bathroom is on the left side of the room. And there is like a chest of drawer thing here. To the right of me, there's a chest of drawer thing like right here at the foot of the bed, and there's an ottoman between the bed and that. And you're like, Levi, that's too much stuff. So anyways, there's a gap between the ottoman and that chest of drawer that sits beneath the TV. And when I got up in the middle of the night, and I get up and I go to the bathroom and I come out, and for some reason, I don't know what I was thinking, but I guess I was just walking straight, but I walked right into the ottoman, and I hit my shin right there, and I kid you not, it was the worst pain. And immediately when I hit it, I was like, I was trying not to scream out loud. And it was so loud. You can ask Ivy. I was like, the next day I was like, did you hear that? She was like, yeah, because she like rolled over and she was trying to ignore me. She'll tell you later. But anyways, so I was in so much pain. I just went down and I was like, oh, like it was just hurting so bad. My shin, like if you ever hit your shin like that or you stump your toe, God, it's the worst pain in the world. And I was just sitting there like cussing in my head, like a million different cuss words. Like I didn't say them verbally, but that's how I cuss sometimes in my head. I was like, ow. But anyways, so, and then I eventually like limp over and get in the bed and then I'm trying to like work it out in the bed. Like I'm doing this number and it was just hurting so bad. But let me tell you, the point of that is, let me tell you how I usually come out of the bathroom at night. Because Ivy's like nocturnal. Like she has night vision. I kid you not. Like we did a challenge one time. This is so random. I'm on a tangent now. But we did a challenge one time because she noticed, she's like, you can't see at all in the dark. And I was like, you can't either. So we did a challenge. Our bedroom is upstairs and then the kitchen's downstairs. I said, all right, here we go. Let's do this little challenge. We turned all the lights off in the house. And it was nighttime. And we did this challenge where, okay, you got to go all the way to the refrigerator, get something out, bring it back up here in the dark with no lights. Like, don't turn any lights on. I couldn't even make it like to the bedroom door. And she did it like so fast. And she came back. She's like, time. And I was like, dang, that was impressive. But anyways, just to give you, this is me usually coming out of the bathroom. So I walk out of the bathroom and you're tired. You're already walking like this. You're like zombie walking. But let me tell you how I usually come out. And this is no joke. I know I gotta go wide left when I come out. So I gotta go wide left to make that straight, and then I gotta go up that direction. So I come out and I'm like feeling, and then I know, because on my left there's a chest drawer under the TV. I know once I touch that, I can use it as a guide. So pretend it's here. I can use it as a guide, and I can get my left leg as close to it as possible so I don't hit that ottoman. And that's what I do. And I use it as a guide. And then I get so far that direction, and I do this number, and I start searching for the next one. And I get up way more in the night than Ivy does, so she should have gave me the left side of the bed. That's all I know. That's what this is really about. Anyway, so I'm doing this number because I have to stay that close because I'll stump my right toe under the bed, and that is awful too. I promise this is going somewhere. So then I do that number all the way, and I don't know why. It's already dark. I close my eyes. I already can't see, but I close my eyes. I don't know. I guess it's just like confirming I can't see. Anyways, so that's usually what I do coming out of the bathroom. And man, I was in so much pain, but I just felt like God hit me in the middle of that moment. And I don't know why, like he had to do this in the midst of my pain. But anyways, I laid down and I just felt like God was like, that's what it's like. And I was like, what? He's like, that's what it's like. That's what it's like when you get worried and distracted. That's what it's like when you get caught up thinking you're in control and you stop trusting me. And I know this sounds ridiculous, but that's what happens, Levi, when you get too self-reliant. You begin to lean a little bit too much on your own understanding. You put a little bit too much trust in yourself. You think, I got this. I don't need no help. I don't know what I was thinking that night, but that's exactly what it's like when you try to go throughout this life without Jesus. You walk out of that bathroom going 100 miles an hour, and the ottoman is right there. It's right. What are you doing, Levi? What are you doing? But that's what it's like. And God just hit me like, Levi, this is the flip side of that is that the way that you walk to the bed typically, that's what it's like trusting me. One step at a time. I don't even know where the bed is. I don't know where any of the objects are in the room. You don't know what's coming for you. You don't know what situation's going to come your way. You don't know what circumstance is going to hit you. You don't know who's going to be sick. You don't know what your business is going to bring. You don't know how much money you're going to make. You don't know what is coming, but you just got to step. You just better put your hands out because that'll help guide you. And just keep stepping. One step in front of the other. And that's what it's like trusting God. We plan our ways, but the Lord directs our steps. That's what the Bible says. And he said that's what it's like. And he said, are you tired? Are you worn out? Are you burned out? Come to me. Get away with me, and you'll recover life. See, the truth is I do need help. The truth is we do need help. I need Jesus every moment of every day, and I just need to walk through my life. I can close my eyes even if I want to, if that helps me realize I'm not in control, because I'm not in control. I'm never in control. Just like Tom Hanks is not in control in that movie. You're not in control. You're not in control. Just ask Jesus. Let him come in. Let him do life with you. The point is not what you do and what you don't do. Don't be caught up in that. It's not about that you're busy. It's okay to be busy, but be busy with Jesus, because your busyness will turn into progress rather than just being empty motion. I promise you. Do it with Jesus. Go with Jesus. Let's pray, church.